All right, this is People of the State of Michigan versus Cody Newhall, docket number 20-669FH, and this is the time set for sentencing. Mr. Newhall, you can hear me okay?
I'm not Mr. Newhall.
Oh, okay. Well, then where is Mr. Newhall? So you must be Mr. Klepke.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Hold on then, we're on the hearing ahead of yours, and we'll try to figure out where Mr. Newhall is. Thank you, Mr. Klepke.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I've got Moto G7 and Zoom. Those are the two people in my waiting room, and the only reason I'm reluctant to let them in both is because I was informed, Mr. Jackson, that you gave your client's father my Zoom number to Zoom in, and I don't do that. Non-participants in the hearing can watch me live on YouTube. I'm streaming right now. So that, relatives and friends can fully see what's going on, but they don't get a chance to speak and they don't Zoom in. So can you give me any idea, if you know, which one might be your client and which one might be his dad?
He is in Clinton County Jail, so I don't know how that appears, and I'm not sure who those two people are. I did expect the dad to Zoom on, but I told him just in case the judge wanted to hear from you, because I was going to reference him, but not to expect it.
Let me just try this then. Ah, got it. I guessed right. I had two to choose from and I guessed right. Okay. Oh. Looks like maybe Clinton County is having a little connecting to audio problem. There you go. Mr. Newhall?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, great. This is People of the State of Michigan versus Cody Newhall, docket number 20-669FH. And this is the time set for sentencing. Mr. Newhall, can you just confirm for me that you are in agreement with doing the sentencing remotely rather than bringing you to the courthouse?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm okay with that.
Thank you. Mr. Newhall, you were convicted of possession with intent to deliver methamphetamine. That is a felony punishable by up to 20 years in prison. You have the right to be represented by an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Jackson. Mr. Jackson, have you had a chance to go through the pre-sentence report with your client?
Yes, Your Honor, I have, and there are no corrections to make. I also want to let Mr. Newhall know that I looked over that one discrepancy that we were talking about, and it is correct on the PSI how it reads. So there's no changes from the defense.
Okay, and that would include, do you have any objections to the sentencing guidelines?
No objections.
Great, thank you. Ms. Nelson, did the people have any corrections to the report or objections to scoring?
Just one clarification, if I may, and this may be partially in part that I wasn't the prosecutor present for the plea that was taken. But in looking through my file's notes, it shows that we did say that it was, the sentencing agreement was not to exceed a minimum of 36 months, but there is a notation that there was a clarification made with Your Honor on the record saying that that intention was to be a cap, which would equate to no more than 36 months. I'm solely going off of the note that's in my file because obviously no more than 36 months is very different than a minimum not to exceed 36 months. And so I just wanted to clarify if I am understanding what was said at the plea accurately.
Well, what was said at the plea was a kilobrew where the minimum sentence would not exceed 36 months. So actually on the face sheet of the PSI, it's written exactly correct. Okay. I don't know what people's guidelines are when pleas like that are made, when sentence agreements like that are made. So I always check to make sure that they're not saying that it has to be in the Department of Corrections, like could it include a jail sentence? And Mr. Berman told me that it could, that it was just a no more than 36 months on the minimum sentence.
Then I have
So-
no additions or corrections. Just wanted to clarify that we weren't misinterpreting that in some way on this.
Yes, no, it is stated correctly on the face page. So no corrections then, and did the people wish to be heard?
Your Honor, I would just ask the court to adopt the recommendation. I think it's appropriate considering the underlying facts of this case as well as the agreed upon sentencing agreement. I leave any other discretion up to this court.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Cody is 28 years old. And unfortunately for Cody, the last few years, maybe 4 to 6 years, most of those time has been incarcerated due to his drug addiction. One thing I learned about Cody is that he is a very smart young man with a lot of potential. Before his drug addiction took the best of him, he earned his high school diploma. He got certified in OSHA 10 certification, AED CPR certification, a Serve Safe certification, which is kitchen safety, certified as a front desk representative. He was enrolled in LCC, but his relapse happened the day before he was supposed to go. And that kind of led to further things that ultimately ended him up in jail. But he still has those aspirations and he does still plan to go to school when he gets out. He was very involved with CMH while he was in Clinton County supervision and everything there with Kristen Fox. He's been there for 4 years and he was getting counseling and CMH services, which helped him a lot, and he still wants to participate in that. His addiction started basically from a high school. He was a high school athlete and he ended up receiving a sports injury where ultimately he was on opioids, but then when those stopped, the other drugs came in and eventually led down the trail to his preferred drug was meth. And that's what he was sentenced to in Clinton County, where he's serving a year sentence now. And it's not followed by probation, but he is serving a full year there. And Your Honor, the case here is meth related, where he basically fell asleep in his car in the Walmart parking lot and the police were called and saw things in his car like baggies, and he ended up having meth on his person. So that was the facts in our case. Mr. Newhall does have a criminal history. He has crimes that really relate to property and drugs and ultimately were a cause of his addiction. He doesn't have any assaultive crimes in his background. Again, everything is related to drugs and or by extension property. He's never resisted police officers. He's always cooperated with their investigation. And at this point, he knows that he's basically rock bottom, where he either has 2 ways to go, and he's already chosen for himself which way he wants to go. It's just about him getting there now. So that was then, and now there's been a lot of positive changes that Mr. Newhall was able to capitalize on. For one, is that basically his drug addiction started when he left his father's house when he was 17 years old. And his father, Mr. David Newhall, he is just recently retired from MDOP. He was, I believe it's a sergeant there in the Central Michigan, it might've been St. Louis facility. Mr. Cody Newhall is going to move in with his father as soon as he's released. And they already have an agreement where there's basically no BS allowed. Cody told me that whether it's court ordered or not, there's going to be drug tests at the house. And if Cody's gone or comes back home, he's going to basically expect to be drug tested. And this is all different because before Cody was kind of on his own and didn't have that support as close as it is going to be now with retired MDOC, plays no games, Mr. David Newhall, who I have his phone number if you want to speak to him as well. But moreover, Your Honor, Cody's going to have a job when he gets out as well. His father owns a company, a part owner of a kind of like a bed bug bombing company where they basically, it's like kind of exterminator, and Cody will have employment there, which is different because before Cody was kind of chasing his high and his addiction where he didn't really hold down a real serious job for a long time. Also, where he's going to live is in St. John's, away from Lansing area. Cody mentioned that when he's in Lansing is when he had his problems where his peer associations weren't where they need to be and his triggers were more common. But he's not going to live there and he doesn't have the desire to continue that type of life. Mr. Cody Newhall has been sober for many months now, being incarcerated. Although he has been incarcerated in the past, Cody has came out and relapsed before, and he realizes that Cody basically told me that being locked up, of course, it's a penalty, and of course, it, for lack of a better word, sucks. But he said that's not necessarily the best thing for him. That he will and can do probation. If he's on probation, it will hold him completely accountable. He will have to do drug tests. He'll have to try to maintain employment. He won't be able to associate with felons and obviously possess drugs or firearms or anything like that. And Cody's 28 and he takes that serious and wants to take that serious. Even from when I first met him to these months later now, his clarity and his vision and what he wants for himself it just gets clearer and clearer. And he's excited. He talked about what happened before, but he's saying this time it's a completely different story. He also wants to and has looked into kind of being a speaker or mentor for other people going through this. As I mentioned, he was a student athlete at St. John's, where he was on a state championship wrestling team and still has a very good relationship with the coach there and the administrator there, and has already asked and it basically has an invitation for when he's clean and sober and his mind is right, he's going to be able to go there and talk to students about addiction and trying to do the right things, and not how Cody lived most all of his 20s. And his 20s are almost over now. He, and again, on that same path, not only has he talked to the coaches about that, he's talked to the deputies who arrested him in Clinton County, and they apparently have a relationship, which just shows that Cody is not an obstructionist. He knew he messed up. He's taken responsibility for these things, and he wants to move on. Your Honor, if you can basically follow the recommendation and sentence him. Well, I guess the recommendation says to put it at 36 months. We would ask for less than that. Cody's already finishing not finishing, but close to finish his year in jail. And, you know, I understand that it's worded a little bit different than the intent. I thought, you know, and I still think that we're at a 36-month cap, and I'm hoping that Your Honor can stay below that. Again, Cody's done jail. He's in jail, and he's done it in the past. He has failed probation in the past, but then he indicated that, you know, not as soon, but when he got out, he basically relapsed. And he knows what those problems were and why it happened then. But now he says things are a lot different. of course, it's going to be a battle, but he is not planning on relapsing, and he's excited about the opportunity to live with his dad and have a job and to be away from Lansing, but to also be on probation and do whatever it takes to be successful this time. So, Your Honor, if you could consider, after you hear what everybody has to say, including obviously Cody, but if you could consider giving him time served or maybe a short addition, jail addition, just to make it, I guess, since he did something in Clinton County, got in trouble and did time, he did something here, gets in trouble and does a little extra time, but not MDOC. And Your Honor, if you give him however long probation you want, it will be a good thing for him because he will be supervised and he will have little wins by not using drugs and by doing things successful, where eventually when he's discharged, maybe early, it'll just be a success story instead of the opposite. So we would ask that you sentence Mr. Newhall to jail time, please. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Newhall, is there anything you wanted to say?
Yes, Your Honor. Everything that Brian Jackson is really truly coming from my heart. I understand your concerns about my past, what may change this time. I know my past. I keep picking the easy route, keep picking the easy life, and it's got me nowhere but incarcerated. 2020 was the worst relapse I've had. I OD'd last year. I drove myself to the hospital. I got a car accident last year, and now relating to selling drugs to support my habit. I am guilty of the charge. That's why I'm pleading to it. Here in Clinton County, I gave pretty much 11 felonies up. I'm a very honest person. I mean everything I say. I don't like lying to people. I've lied my way through my childhood, and it's done nothing for me. No trust. I did run away from my dad's house at age 17, and my dad told me, my dad's Department of Corrections, he told me, the people you hang out with, the life you live, is not going to get you anywhere but incarcerated. And I've been incarcerated since I was 18 years old. I've kind of always been the rebellious person against my dad and my mom, and done what I wanted to do. Well, doing what I wanted to do has got me nowhere but locked up, bad choice of friends, just going over a bad path. The definition of insanity, doing the same thing, expecting different results. And I keep doing the same thing, expecting, I guess, a better result. And it's not. I keep coming back to jail, not learning. I mean, I learned. I've lost a lot of time. I know this time I'm taking, my dad's kind of put work before his childhood because I became a felon. My relationship with my dad wasn't good because he was in the Department of Corrections. But now I realize that my father just wanted the best for me. And my dad was always there for me. I just never leaned to him for the support. It's always, oh, you're just a ticking time bomb. My dad always used to tell me, it's just a matter of time before you get in trouble again. Well, I realize that, and I keep going back to using. Using is doing nothing for me but bad health, incarcerations, in and out of rehab, hospitals. I know by moving to my dad's house is, I asked my dad if I told him when I was 17 I never needed him. I'll never need him again. And now I realize he's there for me. So now I'm going back to my dad. I asked him if I could come back. Now that he's retired Department of Corrections, every time I get out, it's a matter of, oh, what am I going to do for a job or career? Or what am I going to do? And it's always the easy route. I always go back to what I know, drugs. And I'm not trying to pick that anymore. My dad is very supportive. My family is very supportive. I know this time by moving to my dad's house, my dad always said, if you're willing to work, if you're willing to help yourself, I'm more than willing to help you. but my dad doesn't want to help me, and then I throw everything away. And I'm not trying to go back to the life of using or selling drugs. I did have a chance to speak to the officers here, and this has basically been my address for the last 6 years, and they all know me. I have a job every time I'm here. I'm honest. I don't know how to put it in words, but I'm not your necessary your criminal that you think I'm just. I do have a very bad problem, a very bad drug addiction, but I hang out with a lot of criminals, and I'm not trying to live that past. I know none of these people are my friends. The people I keep hurting is my family, the family that's still there for me. They should have given me a long time ago, but they haven't, because they know the potential I have. I am a very smart person. I just never really, I never think of things all the way through, and that's been my problem since I moved out on my own. But I'm leaning on my support this time. I'm gonna do the right thing, no matter the circumstances. I know right from wrong. I'm sorry for the things that I have done. I take full responsibility of my actions. I know when I get out this next time, I'm gonna pursue LCC. I'm changing my what I'm going for. It was welding, but now I'm gonna go for computer designing, graphic designing, and law. And I want knowledge. I know knowledge is where I've been and where I could be. And I'm a very talented person. I just never utilize my talents. It's more of just a self-worth. I need to find the self-worth. And in Clinton County, I did send to Brian Jackson. I was going to commit suicide by a cop when I got this charge. And I've had enough of this lifestyle. Like I said, 2020 was the worst of my addiction. I ended up in the middle of a field. My dad found me in the middle of a field with my grandpa last year. And I ended up coming back. My dad said, you got two choices, to go to the hospital or to the jail. And I said, I'm not going to either. And I walked 2 miles in the middle of winter, not knowing where I was. And the cops found me. And it's just to be honest, Your Honor, I'm surprised I'm alive right now. And I don't want this anymore for my life. I know what I can do. I need to find my self-worth, and going to rehabs, that's what's a big thing I worked on, was my self-worth. I know I have the potential, I have the capabilities to do better for my life. I just know it's not the life I want to live anymore. That's it, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, just to reiterate, this is a cap. It's a no more than 36 months on the minimum. So when prosecutors say no more than 36 months on the minimum, I understand that to be a cap on an MDOC sentence. That's why I always ask, does it have to be an MDOC sentence? And the answer was no. That said, the guidelines in this case are 72 to 120 months. The guidelines are 6 to 10 years on the minimum sentence, 6 to 10 years on the minimum sentence. And the agreement was made no more than 36 months on the minimum sentence if it is a Department of Corrections sentence. So there's already been a drastic reduction from, well, they've been cut in half. The minimum end of the guidelines has been cut in half, and that's just the minimum end of the guidelines. So there's already been a drastic reduction. And the reason I say all that is because it is very, very difficult for me to send anyone to the Department of Corrections when the underlying offense is a drug offense. And, you know, I hear you, Mr. Jackson, that Mr. Newhall does not have a history of violent offenses. He doesn't have any violent offenses, but he does have a home invasion third, which is a crime against a person, pretty significant. And he has firearm possession by a felon. So they're not insignificant priors along with others, but they're not violent per se. And I acknowledge that. But again, this is a drastic reduction from the sentencing guidelines. And furthermore, as the report outlines, there have been numerous revoked probationary terms and, attempts at support and programming and assistance that have not worked out. So we're sort of running out of options. I am going to impose a sentence that will be within the Killebrew agreement that I'm willing to abide by. And it will impose both incarceration and an opportunity for rehabilitation, because I can hear you, Mr. Newhall, that you're at the end of your rope, you're at the bottom of the well, however you want to put it. I understand that. And this is the time when you can, only go up. But I agree with your dad 100%. And that is, first you have to help yourself. So, I'm not delusional. It's not an easy process. But it is a process that you have to do. And there is programming and support that can help you do it. So I am going to order you to pay $130 to the Crime Victims Fund, $68 in state costs. Costs to the county in the amount of $500 based on the State Court Administrative Office calculated average cost of a criminal case in Ingham County. And you are committed to the custody of the Michigan Department of Corrections for a period not less than 24 months nor more than 240 months. You receive credit for 287 days already served. That sentence runs concurrent with the sentence out of Clinton County that you're currently serving. And I do not object to placement in the SAI program. So the Department of Corrections may go along with that, or they may wait until they deem you eligible, if you ever are, and I believe you will be, but and then they'll write to me and ask for my approval again. I will give my approval for you to go in the SAI program. And don't write to me though, that's not how it works. The Department of Corrections institutes it. Okay, Mr. Newhall, you have the right to file an application for leave to appeal your conviction and your sentence in this matter. You're entitled to an attorney at public expense to assist you in doing that. If you're making a request for one, you have to make it within 42 days of today's date. It will explain that further on an appellate rights form that we will mail to you. And you just need to know that that 42-day time period starts running from today. Do you have any questions before we go, Mr. Newhall?
No, I don't. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, good luck. And that will conclude this hearing. So you can tell them they're at the Clinton County Jail, you're all set.
Okay, thank you.